Good evening, everyone. I am Andrea Cardone, and I work with the Science Sport Institute of CONI, which is the Italian National Olympic Committee, and I am the responsible for area performance of Italian softball female national team. The topic we are going to discuss today will be the talent and also the learning and the style of conduction. Therefore, the way we teach in youth sectors. Therefore, we will speak about all the players which are aged between 6 and 17 years old. Let's go first of all to look what is the talent, or at least what could be a definition of talent. There is so much told about talent. We heard him a lot in the youth sector. Many times in every sport, we are at the field where kids are playing, or even just a backyard, and we see boys and girls playing, and we hear parents saying, this guy is a phenom, this girl is very good, he is a talent, she is a talent. But are we really sure that talent it's just the boy or the girl that is better than others? Surely the talent is a dot, naturally given, and probably a little bit more in depth than attitude. But it depends on many factors. It could be or not could be uh, just a characteristic, but for sure, in order to become and keep to be uh, the best, starting from kids arriving to being a top senior athlete, it's very much dependent on a lot of factors. And many of them are external to the person. Therefore, to get closer to this concept, I think that we need to study what is the multifactorial model, the OROS, which says that talent is not just a characteristic stable, but it's the result of intersection between personal factors and interpersonal factors and also extra personal factors. By personal factors, are speaking about all the physical and cognitive facts that are in an athlete, also affections and emotions. Uh, at interpersonal factor, we are thinking about family, social, ambient, that is part of the athlete's life, directly and indirectly acting on him. For example, friends, coaches, parents, and then there is the extra personal factor that gathers all the factors that are outside the person, and therefore it's a little bit more spiritual. For example, the faith of an athlete or his belief. These three levels share everyone apart in influencing the athlete and his performances. Therefore, the skills and the success of an athlete will be depending on these multifactors scheme. This image showing a straight road and a very complicated road full of obstacles, it's a little bit showing what people think about talent. They think that people with talent are on the left, therefore they have a straight line towards success, and people that don't have the talent are on the right, therefore having many more obstacles to overcome. This is not really true. And every single high success athlete or businessman will tell you that this is not how it works. Speaking about motion and learning, it's more likely of a gather of processes made with exercise, experience that determine a change in terms of performance and potential of an athlete. Therefore, learning, it's not just the performance. In other words, the performance, as we will see later, it can be changed by some factors. The learning is something that, as you get it, it will be stable and will be kept for all your life. A kid that doesn't know how to write, in the moment that he will be taught letters, will be remembering letters here or there. Some days he will remember three letters of the alphabet, some day fourth, and that's the performance. One day it will be different than the other depending on some factors. But the moment that the boy will learn the whole alphabet and how to use them, letters that he learned, actually that will be the moment that he will never forget. We don't forget uh, how to write, how to read after we learned how to do so. But sometimes we read better, sometimes we write better, sometimes we are impacted by external factor in our performance. But then, as a coach, as a trainer, how can I understand and distinguish when the kid has learned something and when instead he's just overperforming rather than showing a skill that he learned and made himself or herself? So I created an exercise. I see that exercise being made, but how am I sure that this is not just today and tomorrow the performance will be impacted and when it's real learning skill? There are four parameters for that, which are improvement, constance, persistence, and adaptability. So, as improvement, we are speaking that after some time, the ability and the skills are getting better and better. They are closer and closer to the best possible way of doing a motion, a skill. And this is in regard of what was the initial starting point of the athlete. So we identify an exercise and we see that the kid should do the motion in that precise manner. So we have, for example, a pitcher that has to make a pitch in that precise motion. So we teach them the body posture, how to rotate the feet, and how to throw the arm over the shoulder and stuff like that. But then we need to see during the time how much the movement from the starting point becomes closer and closer to the ideal movement. On top of the improvement, we need to add constancy or steadiness. As we progress with exercises, execution should be even more stable day by day. It means that small variations and external factors are not influencing very much the performance of an athlete. For example, the athlete, the kid, can play the same with bad weather, good weather, with parents outside, with much public, without public. This means constancy, not in the willing of repeating a gesture, but in the capability that that gesture, so improved, will be frequent in time. It's important that we have an athlete that is performing on a stable base today, tomorrow, in 10 days. Then we have persistency, which means the ability that we maintain longer times of high constancy and high improvement. This means that the moment that a player gets some new skill, he will be keeping those skills for a long time and his performance will be higher in time for a longer time. And finally, we have adaptability, which means that the ability or the skill is showed with major success even when the situation is changing. Therefore, as we said, weather conditions, public conditions, mood are not influencing the performance of the athlete. Therefore, if we compare performance with learning, and if learning is made by those previous four factors, the performance will be momentaneous, and changes that are determining the learning are instead stable and irreversible. Therefore, we have two definitions of what we have been speaking as of now. Performance is momentaneous and can change very much in time. Learning is something that we have stable and constant in time. As we show some images of very high level athletes in Italian sport environment, we need to understand that to arrive at this level, athletes and young athletes need to be overcoming some obstacles. But the most important thing is that these obstacles are every time at their level of skills. So the age, the knowledge of motions, and the moment that we are making young athletes face obstacles that they can overcome, this will be what makes the kid grow and improve himself or herself, and it's very important for this personal achievement. And of course, how we could end without an image of our captain Erika Piancastelli that will lead the Olympic national team to Tokyo. Now we'll speak about learning environments. I'd really like to use this term because to me, youth sector schools of any sports, in this case baseball and softball, shouldn't be seen very much as schools but as learning environments. Environment, it's said in the term that it's the situation in which the talent can be expressed and manifested in natural way. And we saw how the talent is not the best kid in the team. No, are speaking about the kid, the boy or the girl that are more constant, are more persistent, and they are adapting and they improve themselves. We need to create that environment in which kids, good or not so good, are skilled or not so skilled, they all have the same chance to improve themselves. And in order to do so, surely these images are very good because even if we are speaking about senior athletes of our national team after they got a huge victory, but this is a happy, a calm, a joyful image. And any person that is going into this environment will be happy as well. One key characteristic of learning environments shall be trust. If there is no trust, the kid will not be able to let himself or herself go and improve. It must be an environment without judgment. The kid must be able to have some mistakes. He needs to be able to try to choose what he wants to do, the motion he wants to do, without fearing to be judged by his coach, by his manager, by teacher, but with the knowledge and awareness that the mean of the mistake it's improve himself or herself thanks to the knowledge of the technician of the coach that will be working with him. It will be also very important have environments in where give your 100%. For example, here we have Giulia Longhi, which is doing a Walker View training. Then we have Brandy Priscilla, which is doing a training specified with bat swing. And then we have a phrase that, in my opinion, it's very important: max result with max effort. Sometimes how we as teachers, we as educators, we put our guys and our girls in a situation where they can be already good because we want to be seeing them as good. Sometimes, and I'm saying this to myself also, I have been organizing exercises for kids and then putting them into that exercise, and they were perfect. And I was so happy because they were so perfect. Oh my god, they are so good, but they were not improving over there. I made a mistake in that situation because the kid needs to be set in an environment where he needs or her needs to put an effort, and sometimes he will need to fail in order to become a better athlete. And be aware, by effort I don't mean exhaustion. I just think that kids should be having a situation where it's not easy to get success. For example, if we are giving in math at school uh, an exercise which it's 2 plus 2 equals 4, and we always give this exercise to all the kids, then those kids will be very good in terms of exercise, but they will not be improving. If instead sometimes we put the kid in a 2 by 3 exercise, which is equal 6, the kid will need to make an effort to think about the result, and they will learn the new skill. In this situation, so in the ability to create a learning environment, it's very important the style of conduction. Therefore, the capability of relationship between the coach, the manager, and the kids. And I think this is very much determined by the age of the athletes. I think that coaches should be formed relating the age of the players they will be teaching and they will be coaching, because it's very different to communicate with a 6 years old or a 10, a 12 years old, a 14 years old, and with senior athletes. I think for a coach, it's very important to be able to create a team, get listened at, and put players in condition to give their 100%. But most important, they need to learn how to understand the athlete. It's not about thinking that kids should understand us, because instead, if we do so, we are exiting what is a style of conduction that brings the kid or the athlete to step into the environment where he can learn. So, in terms of ideal coach, I don't think that ideal it's a possible term. It's a little bit utopia. But I always try to study to create training sessions with the idea of making the less number of mistakes possible, and always try to improve myself. I think that the best technician should be the best equilibrist, the person that is on a string, and it's very difficult because you need to have balance between sustain and autonomy. The ideal technician is the one that can have the kid sustained and helped when it's in a difficult moment, but at the same time the kid will be also autonomous because he will need to make some choices and he will make some mistakes. It's very difficult thing because sometimes as we are coaches or managers, we help too much our athletes. We are anticipating their needs, we give the solution, and this is not helping the kids to be expressing themselves. On the other side, we let them go in total autonomy without sustaining them, without correcting them, and without helping them when they are in difficulty. Because I think that the target for a coach should be using a style of conduction that helps the athlete to make their choices in every sport and every level, mostly in the ones with open skills. The, the choice made by the athlete is making the difference because in on the field there will be the athlete, not the coach. Therefore, what will be happening during a match will be chosen by the athlete. If we are not getting our kids used to choose during the match with the possibility, at least for the youngers, to make mistakes, then that mistakes will be the choice and will be that element that will be helping the kid to be able on a high level stage to make that good choice. If kids are able to make choices, even bad choices, then the senior athlete will be ready to make the good choices. We cannot think that the athlete at 25, 24, 22, 30 years has this ability, this skill to make choices if we didn't work on this from the principle of his career. Uh, as long as they are at 6, 7, 8 years old, in that moment we have to make possible the style of conduction and the creation of learning environments that gives every single athlete the skill to choose what is the right thing to do at the right moment when he or her are staying in the field. The worst case scenario, the kid will make mistakes, and then we will see how we deal with those mistakes and how to make those mistakes the starting point for a growth and an improvement. So, speaking about style of conduction, it's the interaction between the coach and the athlete, and it's the moment where the behavior of the one influences the action of the other, and they together help the team reach their objectives. There are two ways of conducting a training. There is the directive deductive way, which means being a coach, I'm giving direction, I'm giving orders, I'm giving commands, and it's more about I tell you what you have to do. On the other side, there is a style of conduction which is non directive but more inductive. So I make questions, I create situations, and I put the kid into those situations. I create problems, and I try with the sustain, with the autonomy, to make the kid solve those problems. Which one to use? Well, it depends on the objective and of the target that we need to obtain. Sometimes, of course, it also depends on the people we have in front of us. But as I think and as I have as my experience, it's not easy, but we should lean towards non-directive inductive style at least for the 80-85% of our training sessions. Therefore, of course, we will have some directive deductive uh, situations, so we will have to give rules and commands to the kids just to get them silent, just to have the role of the coach, of the manager, clear for the kids. I will make a strong statement here, but in my experience with today's athletes and also with the high level athletes, we should be uh, almost only non-directive inductive because today the athlete needs to be stimulated with questions. They want to know everything, they want to be aware of what they are doing, and it's also a very expert of athletical preparation. Therefore, thinking about that the training can only be dealt with a do it like this, and that's enough. In a today world, it's almost impossible. Then we have the feedback, therefore the correction in the regards of the kid when they are making a mistake. I think that here it's good to have actual manager of Olympic national team, which is Federico Pizzolini. Feedbacks are always or should always oriented to the positive way. For example, we have a girl that is pitching and what her gesture it's correct, then we can say very good, you are doing good. And if we stop there, we're actually not giving a reason of why that gesture is good. The conduction style should always give a reason to the kid. Very good, that was a very good rotation, that was a very good utilization of the legs, and that action means that you made a very good pitch. Therefore, we had the positivity and always the reason, most of all the reason. However, when the motion is wrong, when there is the mistakes, we don't need to go on the negative side. In a very young age, we don't have to use a negative way of acting. And how do we correct if the kid is mistaking? Uh, the gesture was not correct, we wait, we'll be looking at other kids, and if someone of those kids is doing the correct gesture, then we will be making a public feedback, raising our voice on that kid. We will say that was a good gesture because you made a good rotation with your shoulders. And then the kid that was mistaking at the first place, they will be listening to that good feedback made to the others, and they will be wanting to try that motion by themselves. And when the girl that was mistaking gets the right motion, then we'll be having to make a feedback, a positive feedback also to her in the way that we are signaling that she get the right motion. On the other hand, what we are trying to achieve it's a feedback that it's get with questions for the kid that is mistaking. For example, when they mistake, we ask her, "Are you sure that the posture is correct, or there is something that we can find to improve that?" It's a way of communicating that will put the kid in an environment of learning because if she is not able to do that gesture, she will need to improve and she will need of an environment where she can understand how to do it. In many sports, there is an abandon by kids with a high level because many of them they don't feel adapt to the environment which it's there and feedbacks should be given in the correct way, but many of us we give too many feedbacks, too excessive feedbacks on sometimes they will never give them, so we have to try to module these feedbacks to be balanced and find the correct moment, the correct frequency, and surely, most of all, adapt them to the target we are looking for. Let's see some practical examples. We are in a situation where the exercise is tag up. How we can, in a tag up exercise, be able to see the good behavior and how we can do as the kid that is doing the exercise will be feedbacked positively if they are doing the good gesture, the good tactical action. The runner on the first base, uh, after a very long hit, will go off the bag, then goes to the second, and in the moment that the ball is caught, so it's in the glove of the fielder, the runner will be having to go back on the first base, touch it, and then remove again on second. Obviously, in my advice, I would never say to that runner, hey, you have to go fast and reach the second base because this is a command. And I would put myself in the condition of uh, pressing the kid. I would try to say, hey, you did the good choice and you did the right action and you were able to reach the second base on time. Therefore, it's a feedback, it's a positive one, and I'm also telling the kid why it's a good action. I would never put myself in the condition of saying, you didn't have to go in second, you had to stop before, you should have understood that that was a caught ball on the beginning, why you did that. But for example, I would say, what was a different action that you could take in that situation? In this situation that I'm making a correction with the feedback, it's clear that the kid wasn't able to reach second base on time, and he will be saying, I thought I could go in second base, and I hadn't the time to do so. So the kid is facing a mistake, and the mistake will become the great tool to make the kid learn what was wrong. That's the difference in the communication that we need to understand because it will make the difference. If we say to the kid, you didn't have to go on the first place, you should have stopped. And I have a kid that it's the first time that it's approaching our sports. We are fearing them, we are scaring them. At the point at statistics says that 9 out of 10 kids uh, leave and they go back home and they said the teacher, the coach, the manager was yelling at me, I don't want to go anymore, and they just say, I'm not good at baseball, and they will be going to get another sport. If we put the kids in learning environments, we create a positive environment because this is what makes kids stay in the environment, even if they are not the so-called phenoms. Because phenoms are not talents. Talents are those who will keep coming to the training sessions and they will improve, they will be constant and persistent. Let's see another exercise, which is the outfielder cover. The outfielder, when it's not involved in the action, so he has not to field the ball because was not ball hit in his direction, the outfielder will be required to cover a base to try to stop an eventual overthrow on the base kept by his teammate. This action that we have for the training, we showed to our kids, but let's say one of our players is not able to do so, and how do we speak with him? We say, stop, you were late, it's not like that you will be on the base on time. No, that's not the right approach. We will never stop the action because it wasn't going how we expected. Or stop, stop, repeat them because those were not the good movements. If we don't give continuity to the play, the learning will be impacted because we know that the cycle repetition of the gesture is what it's needed by kids to learn. The more a kid will play, the more he will improve. The more a kid will read, the more he will be reading better, and so on. If we stop the continuity of the game, that kid will be improving less rather of a same kid if we are putting of a constant game situation. So while he's playing, while he's doing, we don't stop and we ask, hey, what was the gesture that you missed? What was the things that put you being late? What you can change? Because it's obvious that you were late. This way, we create a player that thinks while he is playing, and that will be the choosing athlete that we need at the highest level in a very important moment of a match. It will be autonomous in taking the right choice, and maybe that right choice made at the right moment, it will be the difference between winning a medal or becoming first, being an European champion, and so on. How to know the frequency of feedbacks? Well, there is not a correct frequency. Uh, it can vary depending on the period of the season, of the characteristics or skills of the players, of the kind of activity we are having right now, the necessity or the answers that we have uh, on the previous feedbacks. I would say that most of all, it's also regarding the conditions of uh, weather, the field, and therefore it's us that we have the conduction of the game of our kids, and if we are keeping giving feedbacks, it's not good. But it's not also good the opposite, where I sit in the bench and I let them play and I just look at them. That means no feedback, and it's not working because they will just train by themselves, and it's not optimal. It depends on the situation, and obviously it depends on the skills and experience of the coach to be able to be the famous equilibrist in putting in the condition of being both sustaining and giving autonomy to the kids. I really think that genes do have an important place in the kid's life that becomes a teenager and then becomes the athlete and then able to be a talent. It also depends on the genes, but surely the environment in which we are putting that gene into makes the difference in the growth of the athlete. We, and as we, I mean we coaches, we trainers, we uh, managers, we need to be able to have every kid that it's approaching our sport to be able to experience the happiness of coming back. And every kid should be getting into an environment where they can express their full potential. When we get a kid to express their full potential, then we made a great job. And I'm sure that they will become athletes, or at least they will have great chances to do so. I think that our softball girls that will be give us the privilege of going to Tokyo at the Olympic Games, and we see them with kids. They did this path. They were introduced in a path that, thanks to their genetics and then thanks at their skills, they were able to grow, in which brought them to be champions. And now I have some emotions. I'll be sincere taking up this slide because he represents a very great man, a person that personally gave me a lot of what I know. And I think also that to baseball and softball, he gave a lot. I don't think there is any need of presentations. We speak about the boss, Enrico Blatter. And also a phrase that he said: quitters never win, winners never quit. Because behind this phrase, I think there is a lot. There is a lot of the content that we discussed until now. Behind this phrase, there is steadiness, there is adaptability, there is persistence, and there is also the improvement. It means that behind this, there is talent. I think that if a kid has many, many skills, but then he quits, then he will never win. In order to win, he will have not to quit ever, but he needs to become the talent. I went back a little bit on this phrase of him, and I compared on what are my studies about the style of conduction and my experience in the youth sector, and there is a match about these factors and the phrase by Enrico, and what he told, it's the truth. To reach whatever we said in this presentation, we have not to quit. So I'd like to end this in this way, remembering a great man, thanking him for everything he did and what he gave us until now, and personally for whatever he transferred to me. And then after putting the bibliography and then the text on which I had the possibility to learn what I shared with you, with my heart, it's a thank to all of you that were listening, but most of all, thanks to the federations, the FIBs, thanks to the president to give me the honor and the privilege to share with you this experience, and hopefully to give you some ideas, not information, but ideas. I hope I transferred you my ideas in a way that maybe we created doubts between us, and maybe on a second time, thanks to the questions, we will be have a confrontation on this, and we will have a dialogue to share experiences and then improve ourselves. Have a great rest of the convention, and thank you for all.